Welcome to Seat at the Table, where we believe your technical skills will get you in the room, but your soft skills and business acumen will earn you a seat at the table. My name is Jerich Beason, and I'm the host. We are seeking to have candid conversations with leaders across different verticals, different industries, diving into topics that we think will help prepare and equip cybersecurity leaders by really trying to extract the hard-earned lessons from the years of experience each of our guests bring to the show. Today, we actually have three guests. This is our first time having a panel, and I'm excited about this one. I'm going to let each one of them introduce themselves. Let's start with you, AJ. You're on mute, AJ.
Of course, I did that. Hey, everyone. I am AJ Yan. I am the founder and CEO of ByteCheck, a cybersecurity compliant automation startup. I've been in the cybersecurity industry for a little bit over a decade, 6 years in the U.S. Army, and then a few years as a principal consultant where I learned that compliance sucks, and I built ByteCheck to make compliance suck less. And I'm super excited about talking today because how we treat our people in cybersecurity is so important. So I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Randall.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jerich. Randall Fritchie. I am the CISO for Denver Health in Denver, Colorado. I've been doing this for over 20 years. Also a distinguished fellow with the Information System Security Association. And if you're not a member or don't know about it, I would definitely recommend checking it out. And before I got into technology, I was in law enforcement. I was a deputy sheriff.
Thank you, Randall. Remy, you're up.
All right, my name is Remy Akintande, and I work for a US-based insurance company, and I am managing a security operations team for them. And I've been in security for about 10 years. Prior to that, I worked in the oil and gas industry, and my sort of interest now is essentially looking at the human side of SOC performance improvement.
Thank you, Remy. That accent you heard is because he works for a U.S. company, meaning he's not in the U.S. We have coverage across, I think, multiple different time zones. Randall, you're in Denver. AJ, you're in Miami. I'm in Houston. Remy, you're in Europe. This show has gone global. All right. So for today's show, as AJ kind of we're going to talk about high levels burnout. We may talk about in future episodes, but today we're going to talk about the responsibility we as leaders have in managing the stress of our team and the people within our care. I want to set the stage for everyone out there. Some may wonder, how is this related to having a seat at the table? Well, stress and burnout is a retention problem. It's an economical problem. It's something you should just care about from a place of humanity. And it hits the bottom line. But the fact that it hits the bottom line shouldn't be the only driver. But here are the facts. Burned out workers are less productive. They're less satisfied in their roles, and then they're more likely to leave to go to another organization. Part of the Great Resignation is tied to burnout. And if they do stick around, they may be out for illness more often. They're going to cost your company more money in healthcare expenses, and their burnout will compound and potentially trickle down to the people around them. And it can snowball quickly. It may sound dramatic, but this is a big deal. Now that we kind of have that out of the way, I want to make sure we're having a conversation. What steps have you taken explicitly to take a positive impact or to provide a positive impact on the wellness of your team?
Yeah, so as a startup founder, one of the things that I raised money on for our recent investment round was that our culture was going to be the reason why we can scale the company, that the way we treat people and the reason that we're going to be able to recruit really good, talented people, keep them at the company is because of how we treat them. And our number one core value at ByteCheck is being people first. And every decision we make is through the lens of how does this impact the human? I don't care about the business. I don't care about the revenue. I don't care about the product. How does this impact the human on the other end? And that's how we make all of our decisions. And some of the tangible things we've done is just a lot of the complaints that most leaders know about, that I've heard about my whole career, I've decided, building this company, we're not going to do that anymore. So one of the good example is unlimited PTO. We always hear about unlimited PTO as a scam because nobody ever takes the PTO. So we force our employees to take 2 weeks of leave a year. They have to take 2 weeks. It's a metric that our people managers get evaluated on. And we check to see, has anyone taken, if you haven't taken time off in a 90-day window, we're going to check in and see what's going on. Hey, take a break. And then when people go on vacation, if they pop in the Slack and they're sending messages, we're saying, get out of here, get out of here, get out of Slack, because we don't want people working on vacation. So those are two real tangible things where it's just like, we promote this culture of taking breaks throughout the day, on vacation, and just really every decision we make is about the person.
I love that. You're really saying you protect people from themselves in many cases. I mean, spot on. What about you, Remy?
Right. I kind of bring an interesting sort of perspective because I'm somewhat of a new leader in terms of, being in a management position within IT security. But before I get into that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, kind of provide some sort of like data background. So in 2021 HBR article that's called "What COVID Has Done to Our Well-Being," it was observed that 85% of well-being had declined, and a large part of that, well, essentially 50% of that, of the individuals that essentially checked that box said that mental health had declined. And there was another sort of 26% that mentioned that it was actually the increased work demand that had, that essentially made them think that, or made them feel that their well-being had essentially declined. There was another 22% who mentioned that, well, their well-being had improved, but they attributed that to having more time to participate in fitness activities and items like that. And from my perspective, I think that managers, leaders, and employees have a role in managing well-being. And the approach I have taken is essentially working with my team to ensure that we manage workloads, ensuring that individuals in my team, they have the right level of autonomy to get things done, and also ensuring that there's a component of psychological safety in the way we work, so individuals are free to express themselves, and ensuring that they're also feeling that they are listened to.
Dropping gems over here, Remy. So first of all, the fact that you're a new leader is why we have you on the show. I want to send a signal out to anyone that if you have any people under your purview, you have the ability to impact this. So many times people may think, well, I'm not the top dog. I'm not making the big decisions. I can't affect the well-being and the wellness. I just have to follow the rules. But there are things that are within your reach, number one. Number two, facts, right? COVID made this worse. This was a problem before COVID. Burnout in cybersecurity has been a thing for a long time. It's been a thing in a lot of industries. I think COVID maybe made this a problem across other industries that it maybe didn't necessarily reach in the past, but it has caused an additional challenge. Number one, during COVID, we've seen attacks go up. We are defenders, and we're seeing a higher volume of problems that we have to defend against. But then there are just all the other personal aspects that have come along with COVID. Everybody that you know at this point knows somebody that has had COVID. Everybody that you know has had to help care for someone that has had COVID. If you know someone with kids, they have sufficiently freaked out at some point in time about their kids getting COVID, right? And all of that affects our well-being. So I appreciate your input and your thoughts there. And then you use psychological safety. I love that word. I've used that word heavily. I think we're going to have a whole episode on it, so I'm not going to dive too deep on it. But you're right. People need to feel safe, and they need to know that the decisions that they are making are not going to impact their future and their current status at the company. They're not going to get an asterisk by their name because they asked for a mental health day, right? There are so many things that can go along with the term psychological safety, but I love that you brought that up, man. Mm-hmm. Randall, what's up?
Yeah, I agree with everyone else. I think it's, as a leader, you have to sort of lead by example. And so, you kind of let everybody know, hey, I'm going to take a vacation and I'm going to go and do this and relax. And I'm not going to be checking my work. And I trust you all to hold down the shop and just come back, show pictures, tell stories that you encountered while you're out, and just set that example so they know it's okay. They know that it's an expectation of the team. We want you at your best, and you're never going to be at your best if you're not taking a break, using your PTO, and refreshing yourself, and really helping by, helping them understand what are the symptoms of burnout so they can spot it in themselves. I was talking to Remy before the show, and I was telling him that I have a convenient physical affectation here on my left shoulder. When I start to feel burnout, I start to get this little ache right over here, and I know it's time to take a break. And so just recognizing the signs of burnout and making sure that your folks really are encouraged to take time off.
Yeah, and Randall, I think something you said there that a lot of leaders should take really to heart is that you have to lead by example on this stuff. You have to be able to say, "Hey, I'm not okay," and it's okay that I'm not okay. I'm a little stressed. I went too far. I need to take a break. I've done it. I've done it publicly, and the response from my team has been, "I'm so glad you said that," because I was feeling the same way and I was scared to say so. And if the leaders, especially, I came from the military before what I'm doing now as a founder, there's these personas that people get put on them as they get these CISO titles or different executive titles, and you feel like you can't show weaknesses. But I think as a leader, especially in the environment we live in, the one that Remy just described with all those facts, we have to be even more vulnerable nowadays, because we have to show people, especially with all the isolation, that it is completely okay because of everything going on, that you're not okay. It's fine. And if we're all okay with that, I can say I'm not okay earlier on in the process before it's too late.
Amen. Yeah.
Man, I resonate with all. It was Gandhi that said an ounce of practice is worth more than tons of preaching. And that's really what it comes down to. People are going to imitate their leader because their leader signals what is okay and what is not okay. Their leader signals what they value. And I believe that it's about the culture. And culture is what you tolerate and what you celebrate. So if you celebrate someone for taking all their PTO, other people are going to see that and wonder, if I take all my PTO, is he going to celebrate me too? Right? I mean, it's a really basic example, but it's the reality of where we are. So I got another question for you guys. We are in an industry where there is a well-known talent shortage. There are debates as to where that talent shortage exists, how real is the talent shortage, but there are open positions that are not being filled. Various reasons why that's happening. Either way, that could be from attrition, unfilled roles, maybe people don't have the budget. But how do you manage the threat of burnout when you seemingly don't have enough resources to get the job done? Let's start with you, Randall.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we're all perpetually running on teams that don't have enough people. And sometimes that's because we can't fill a role, but sometimes that's because we don't have the ability to actually post a role. And so it's kind of twofold, where we need to make sure that we can manage to what size of a staff should we have to allow them to hire more people, which takes some of the stress off your existing team. But then the other, when you have open positions that you can't fill, there's so many different ways that you can go about finding people. Networking is a fantastic way to do that. As I mentioned, the ISSA chapter, go there. In my chapter, we always wore a tag, I'm hiring, or like a color, like a red was I'm hiring, and a blue was I'm looking for a job. And that way you could connect with people who might be able to help you. And so that's one way. Certainly LinkedIn, we're all, on there quite a bit. And whenever we see someone, maybe we don't even know them. I mean, just encouraging them. Hey, I got a job. Congratulate them. Just be an encouraging person and encourage everyone in your industry, even if you don't know them. And all that will come back around. And if we're always helping others, I think that for me, that relieves burnout. Teaching, I teach cybersecurity, and helping people who are trying to get into cybersecurity is almost relieves stress for me, because I've been doing this forever. I'm only 29. You see the burnout here, but knowing that I'm handing it off to the next generation, it makes me feel good to know that we're all really helping them to be better and to get into it, and sharing our different paths that we've all taken to get here, and just letting them know that there are so many ways to get into cybersecurity, and you could find 100 examples of every one of those paths.
So you've hit a few trigger words of mine, but generally you said be a good human. And if you're a good human, everything will come back in one way, shape, or form, right? And I agree with that. But you use the word generation, and that's a trigger word for me for a few reasons. Number one, I think generational diversity plays a role in this conversation. And hopefully you don't take this the wrong way, but we are all from different generations on this panel. And your generation did not have a concept of wellness and well-being. So to see you representing your generation and talking about something that for a long time was looked at those millennials and those Gen Zers needing their brain health, right? Like it means something. And we talked about a leader leading by example, going the way and showing the way. I'm hoping that someone that was really rigid on their thinking around this concept of wellness and well-being and future generations being soft, I'm hoping that they see from your example that this is something that we all have to deal with, whether we like it or don't. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree. And I see so many posts now and different people talking, and they're talking about demanding such and such from employers. And back in the day, you just took what you got, and didn't ask questions. And now it's completely changed, and I think for good, it's changed for good instead of bad. I think that's a good thing to have that. And certainly, it's tough to get into. Having those folks having that ability to question that and be able to, come at this a different way without feeling, like back in the day, IBM, you couldn't get an IBM unless you had a degree and wore a 3-piece suit or whatever it was back then. And, it's completely changed today. And I think that's fantastic.
You got CISOs and CEOs and hoodies right now. Yeah, it's a new world. And speaking of the guy in the hoodie, let's go with you, AJ. So talent shortage, managing burnout. How do you handle that intersection of those two?
Yeah, I think the first thing you have to do is acknowledge to your teams that that they are doing a lot with less. I think when people are working really hard and they're going above and beyond, just the fact that their leadership knows that this is not normal, and they acknowledge it, and they're like, hey, like, I'm going to get you help. I'm trying my best to get you help. We got to find someone, but like, I acknowledge that you are doing a lot with not a lot of resources, and we're expecting 3 people out of you being one person. And then, kind of going back to, and I know I'm talking a lot about Bite Check's core values, but one of them is don't take yourself too seriously. And I think in the cybersecurity profession, we do take ourselves too seriously sometimes. And I know the threats are evolving. I know there's always stuff going on and there's things, but we have to be able to tell these people that are working really hard that it's okay to take a break, that we will be okay. Like I'll call you if we're not, but take that break. You don't have to sit there in front of your computer until midnight and then go to sleep and then open your computer right away. Like and I think it's all about acknowledging that. Like we can't, like you said, like there's the debates around talent shortage, if it exists, if it doesn't exist. I get it. I hear it. It's hard to hire. however you want to call it, it's hard to hire people. So we have to acknowledge that. We have to tell our people that it's very hard to hire people. We know they're working beyond what would be normal for someone in their position, and then just have that empathy and have that leadership and that courage to say, I know what you're doing is very, very important, but we'll be okay if you go get dinner. We'll be okay if you go to that doctor's appointment. We'll be okay if you start your day a little bit later, and giving them that space to do so.
Yeah, those are some really excellent points, AJ. And I have to say that, this joust, this constant, trying to balance, filling in roles and looking for talent is something that I'm very familiar with, because essentially I'm just kind of wrapping up and getting over this particular hurdle. And one of the things that I have done within my team, my side of the org is, I've been looking at how we manage workload, and the other, related to that is how we manage priorities within those workloads, ensuring that whatever items that we're working on is aligned with, where the company, wants to go. And then I think another component that's worth mentioning here is also focusing on the most important items. And one of the interesting things, and I think everyone can connect with this in cybersecurity, is whenever whenever requests are coming in, a lot of them come in as urgent, and there is the tendency to focus on the urgent and not think about what is important. And I think that if if we can separate what is important from what is urgent, I think it helps us to manage the that sort of balance between where, or essentially it helps us to not get into the state where we're burning out, because basically what's happening is our finite effort and energy is we're using that to finish those items that are important. The urgent items, they come in as urgent, but maybe if we really looked at them, they can wait. And then another thing that AJ mentioned, or the two items that I really liked that AJ mentioned, was uh, acknowledging the individuals that are working within the teams, and the sort of value that they're bringing to the enterprise. And again, in my team, I like to celebrate wins. Whenever someone does something really good, I reach out to them and say, this is great work, it's really appreciated. And then the other thing also is that is so important. I think, like you said, Jerich, that, generations are slightly different. There is a difference in, some years ago and the way things are organized now. Now there's a much more focused on really looking at the individuals that we work with, the individuals within our team, and really trying to understand where they're coming from, because I think we know now that those individuals, the better they feel, the more healthy they are, mind and body, the better that they're able to deliver on their objectives.
Preach. I mean, I agree with what you're saying, man. Uh, First, if the rest of my office was clean, I would direct the camera to my whiteboard where I have an axis of urgent and
Yeah.
important. And everything that's going on my entire list, I always put it down. I identify the priorities, and then of the priorities, I identify the urgent ones and the important ones, and I focus my time on the ones that are highest to the right?
Yeah.
Urgent and highest priority. And things move over time. Sometimes things never move, and I realize, well, why do I even have it on my list, right? But as they move up into the right, that's where I spend my time, and that is how I try to direct my team as well, right? So the the key message for me when it comes to this is I have to manage up, right? So yeah, as a CISO, I provide tasks and things to do and so forth, but a lot of things are coming down either from the business or from my leadership, whomever it may be. It's my job to protect my people, right? So the way I protect my people is to say, we can do this, but we can't do that. And if they want to throw something new on our plate, sure, we'll do that. But which one of these things are we not going to do? Or are we going to deprioritize? And that's the goal. Like, you can't have it all. And I need to be, as clear about that as possible. And you brought up empathy. We had another past episode with Naomi Buckwalter. Shout out to Naomi. She's awesome.
Yeah.
And in that episode, we talk about empathy is really looking through the lens of someone else's eyes and actually caring about what you see, right? So when we think about burnout, I think that we think about the work that we've given them. We don't think about what life is like for them, right? And I personally like hiring single mothers. I think they bring a level of resourcefulness. I think they bring a level of complete focus and dedication that I haven't necessarily seen. Everyone has brings something to the table, but I know with a single mother, a kid's going to be sick every once in a while. And either they're going to be out or there is going to be some stress because that kid is in the house and they're not able to focus as much. Well, I need them to be comfortable enough to tell me that I'm working at home with the kid today so that I know, okay, I'm gonna treat today a little bit different, or this week a little bit different, or the next 2 weeks, whatever it may be. But that's the empathy, right? It's not enough to just see and understand. The next step is to do something about it. And what you can do is going to vary, right? But doing something will not only help, but it'll show them that you actually care about what they say, and they'll bring you more, over time. So that's a great message, powerful. um okay, so we've talked about how we can help the people in our purview, and this was already signaled earlier, but we talked about the fact that we need to lead by example. So each of you can, if you can share one thing that you personally do to manage your own well-being and the risk of burnout for yourself. And we're going to start with you this time, Randall. You're on mute, man.
If I had to boil it all down, I would say mindfulness. Um, really taking stock of what's in your head at any given point, questioning your thoughts. You know, what assumptions are you making that you can't prove as true, and how are you acting on those assumptions without having verified that they're actually reality? And I think that mindfulness allows us to examine our own inner world and thought patterns that we have, and it really allows us to take stock of that and then question it. And really, part of mindfulness is just calming yourself down and just relaxing. And if you're in the middle of a stressful day, you take 15 minutes and just go sit on the front porch and just be calm and be mindful. Pay attention to what's going on in your head. The instant that you do that, everything will slow down automatically. For some reason, I don't know, but it just slows down. And you just really have a chance to see, hey, what's going on with me today? And am I okay? And do I need a break? And I think so. If I had to boil it all down, I think mindfulness would be the biggest practice that I do.
Yeah, I would say 100% on that, Randall. And again, it's kind of interesting that you called up mindfulness. So I'm just going to share another sort of data point. And, this time this comes from the World Health Organization. And what they say is that as an individual, you may be experiencing burnout if you feel energy de- energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance, negative feelings or cynicism, toward the work, and you're generally feeling less productive at work, and and those I've noticed, at different occasions, when I'm working, when I get to that level, these are the sort of things I look for. If I'm starting to feel, okay, right, this is too much, or I'm exhausted, I know it is time to disconnect. Now, I also realize, and this was the conversation that Randall sort of mentioned that we were having earlier, there's the concept of eustress. So basically, the one that is referred to as positive stress. So as technical individuals, as technology professionals, security professionals, I think there's kind of like a fine line between this is good stress. I'm growing, I'm developing, I'm learning, And that part of it where it's okay, I've gone beyond, where I'm supposed to. And I think, trying to understand that, understanding where that line is and knowing when to essentially pull back and say, okay, I need to take a break. I think that is really what is going to help us to ensure that we don't get to, that stage of burnout. And then in terms of the way I handle, burnout, I kind of take a slightly philosophical approach. And the way I think about this is that, mindfulness is a component. And then the other component is just thinking about whatever it is that's happening right now. I think it's been described as fears of control. So there's items that you have no control over. There are items you have some control over. There are items that you have total control over, right? So for those ones that you have no control, just leave that stuff alone. For the some control, you can try to figure out how you can influence that. But what you really have control over is how you feel, how you think about things, your perception of what is going on, which, again, ties back to that mindfulness component and understanding that, right, how I feel about this is within my control. Whatever is happening out there, I cannot control. And then just understanding that distinction and acting accordingly.
Yeah, I love that we are on a panel here with a bunch of cybersecurity leaders, and everybody's talking about mindfulness because that is just I just love it, man. It's just making me so happy to see this. For me, if I had to boil it down, it would be routine. My routine is so critical, and my routine involves meditation. From a mindfulness perspective, I meditate every single morning. It's like brushing my teeth. I have to meditate, or if I don't, like, I don't even know what would happen because I haven't not meditated in a while, but I assume it would be a bad day for everyone out there. So I meditate. The before even that though, the way I go to sleep is intentional. I don't look at email, computers, or any screen, not the TV, at least 30 minutes before bed and just completely disconnect. And then when I wake up, I don't touch my phone either. I don't look at email, text messages. I tell my family, like, if something happened, I'm going to find out after I'm done meditating and working out. I'm not going to find out before because I don't look at it. And I give myself those blocks of space. And that's really important for me to just not have any of those inputs. And I get really creative between those times as well as I'm getting ready for bed. And then when I'm waking up because I'm away from it. So intentionally taking those breaks and following my routine. Every day I do a detox as well, digital detox at some point throughout the day where I just put the phone away, stop checking anything, and I just like hang out with the kids or just go on a walk, do something to not be around tech is really important. And then I do take like a philosophical approach to things too. I read Stoic philosophy every day. I just love Stoicism. And to your point, Remy, what Stoicism all is about, a lot of people hear Stoics and Stoicism and they think morbid and they think we just are people that just love death. And that's not the case. Yeah. Stoics decide that they are going to focus on only the things that they can control. They're not going to worry about the things that they can't control. You're just going to not hope that events turn out some way. It's just, this is what happens. And there's a Latin phrase that I live by and repeat to myself all the time, amor fati, which means a love of fate. And it's not just like, oh, I like what happened to me. No, it's a true, passionate love for every situation, knowing that was that's for your future. That whatever it is, good or bad, is for your future. So I just look at things throughout the day. Something bad happens, I immediately tell myself, like, is that bad? Is it really bad? Or is that just another event that's going on that's preparing you for something in the future? So routines are important. Philosophy for me is extremely important as well, to just keep myself grounded in lessons that have been around for ages. The lessons from Stoicism have been around for years, and they apply. I could read something from Marcus Aurelius right now, and it applies to today, applies to cybersecurity, which is why I love it.
Nice.
Yeah, that was so good. And I had something planned to say, and I feel like I'm going to just be piling on here, but I've answered this question in variations in the past. I typically say, plan your priorities, don't prioritize your plans. I think a big part of burnout and just well-being is finding time to be happy, right? So there are things that make you happy. There are things that you like. Don't wait for them to come to you. Go out and grab them. And so that's one of them. But what I was going to say is I have 5 minutes of nothingness twice a day, where I literally do nothing. And it really goes along with some of the things that you guys have. It's really quiet. It sounds like quiet is is how we find a way to. Now you go and sit on your porch, Remy. You have your mindfulness. AJ, you have your meditation. I literally turn off everything and I just try to turn off my brain. And some people call that mindfulness, but I'm not even trying to feel myself. I am just trying to just be there, like remove as many thoughts as I could possibly remove, and just moment where I'm not worried about anything, I'm not thinking about anything. So I always do this after a meal. So if I do it before a meal, I'm thinking about eating. Right? if I do it after a meal, I have the ability to just to develop it, and it's something that you have to try at. People that go get the Calm app, you're not going to just magically reach this state of mindfulness, right? This is a muscle that you need to work on. But when you get there, you will recognize the difference in your life. Guys, I think this is, oh, go ahead, AJ.
I was just gonna say, one thing I challenge people to do is try to eat mindfully, especially in this remote environment. Stop eating in front of your desk. Just take that 10 minutes to eat, put your phone down and just eat. Just eat. Do nothing else. Don't watch TV. Don't be on your phone. Don't check Twitter. Just literally eat. And that change right there for me has been so that 5 minutes of nothing that Jerich, like it's so easy to work while you eat in this remote environment. And that's a chance to take a break. Just eat and enjoy the food. Like actually taste your food, know what you're eating, think about that and be mindful. And then lastly, for what you were saying about the Calm app, I think too many people try to do mindfulness and they think, oh, I wasn't good at it. I wasn't good at meditation. I didn't have a good meditation. There's no such thing. If you took the effort, if you tried to take 10 minutes for yourself and you thought about squirrels, doesn't matter. You still took those 10 minutes. That's all that matters. So people shouldn't worry about if it's good or bad. The effort is what matters. You took time for yourself, and that's what it's all about.
And I'd like to add on, the last time I was feeling the pain in my shoulder quite a bit, we went to Vail for a week, not during ski season, but during the summer. And really, we didn't do anything except I sat on the balcony, looked up at the mountains and drank a beer or whatever, smoked a cigar. And I came home feeling so much better. And I wondered why I can't achieve that without having to go all the way up into the mountains. And I thought, what was it about being in Vail that relieved a lot of the burnout for me? And I think a part of that was just the awe of being in the mountains is so beautiful. And the awe is not just up in the mountains. The awe is around us everywhere. And there's awe in our life every minute of the day. And we have to recognize that. And there's awe in your family. It's just awesome, right? The real meaning of the word awesome. In your church, in nature, being around people, doing the job that you love to do. There's awesomeness in that. And we have to be able to find that awe in everything that we do, or we're forever going to be burnout, and we will forever have to go to the mountains to experience what we can always experience here if we just look.
I think that's the perfect bookend to this episode. Randall, Remy, AJ, thank you guys for coming on. Thank you for partaking in add a little bit more than usual, but needs to be had more. And thank you for speaking directly to leaders. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.